So here I have the ionic compound cutouts. I just want to show you how you're going to cut them out. And so you might want to color them first. Yours will look black and white, and you may color them. I've pre-colored these so that I can show you what it looks like when they're colored and how you have some of the same kind and some that are different. And so first off, you're just going to cut straight down the middle. Be very careful to cut between in the middle here because you don't want to cut off the charges. It's important that you keep those on. Now on the back of these cutouts you have the names, and so you have calcium here. It shows you calcium. You have iron. If you look on back, it says iron 3. You'll notice there's a difference between iron 2, which has 2 positive charges, and iron 3, which has 3 positive charges. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out, and I'll come back in a second. Okay, so I've cut off the border here. Now I'm just going to cut, so I'm separating these elements on this line here. And so let's separate the aluminum from the iron. You can just cut all the way across there. That leaves you with this aluminum. I'll move these out of the way so we can just focus on that. So we can see here these little spots that say cut out. And so we're going to cut out that spot without cutting out the charge. We want to leave the charge. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut along those lines and cut out those spots. Okay, so you can see I've cut out little cutouts and I've left all of the charges in place. I found it's useful to kind of cut these somewhat at a V sometimes because that helps it slide in to the slot where it matches up with the negative charge. So you might want to do that. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut out some of the anions here, the ones that have the negative charge. All right, so I'm going to cut and separate these two. Again, you just separate them. And separate these two here. So I've got my sulfate here. This is a polyatomic ion, an ion that's made out of a group of atoms. And so we're going to cut out not any spot on this, but we actually want to make a little slot here that will allow the positive charge to slide in there. And so to do that, sometimes if you open up your scissors, you might want to get something hard to put underneath. So I'm just going to put some scratch paper underneath that. And then you can cut a slot away. Sometimes if you just scratch it away, you just want to do the back end of this part right here. And that will open up a hole that the positive part can slide into. And so I've created a hole there, and now I'm going to be able to use that. Another possible way that you could do this is you could get a hole punch, and you could just hole punch this section right here. That might also work. So what you then can see is that the positive and the negative charges will then cancel each other out. And so that aluminum and that sulfate come together. And with this particular one, with aluminum sulfate, you end up with a positive charge left. So we're going to need to get rid of that positive charge. In order to do that, you're going to need more sulfate. So just be extra careful when you're cutting out the slot for your positive to go, that you don't cut yourself. Okay. So now I've got a couple of sulfates, and as you put them together, you'll find that the positive and the negative charge cancel each other out. And still not balanced because you've still got a negative charge left. So you're going to have to get rid of that. So here I've got another aluminum, so we can get rid of that negative charge. Now you'll notice when you do that, you're going to end up with some more positive. And so that's why we've got another sulfate here. And so you fit those positive and negative charges together and they cancel each other out. And so here we have the compound aluminum sulfate. And when you come up with the name, That's why the names are on the back. So you can flip it over and you can see that you have aluminum bonding with sulfate. We call this aluminum sulfate. The formula would look like this. You've got 3 charge plus charge on your aluminum and 2 minus charge on your sulfate. That caused you to need 2 aluminums, 1, 2, and 3 sulfates, 1, 2, 3. Now, sulfate is a polyatomic ion, and it's a group of atoms, so we're going to put it in parentheses because there's more than one of them. And then we're going to put 1, 2, 3, a 3 right here. And so that would be aluminum sulfate. So here's one last example where we have calcium, which has a 2 plus charge, and sulfate, which has a 2 minus charge. And you'll see that they fit together, and you have calcium sulfate. And so that's because we always name the positive first. So we would write that as CaSO4. Because there's only one of them, of this sulfate group, we don't put it in parentheses.